The Judge from Hell is an entertaining K-drama, but it's certainly not without its flaws. Taking inspiration from both Taxi Driver and The Devil Judge, The Judge from Hell uses the idea of revenge and vengeance as a tool to drive its narrative forward. Wrapped around that though is a much more sentimental story about forgiveness, grief, and finding your place in the world. The show packs a lot into its 14-episode run, and by the end, you'll be itching for the story to continue. The narrative itself revolves around two key characters. The central protagonist and titular character is Kang Bitna, an elite judge with a beautiful appearance. However, she's completely unhinged and doesn't stand for being disrespected in the courtroom. Oh, and she's also a resurrected dead woman with the spirit of Justitia, the goddess of justice inside her, prancing around pretending to be a judge. After being banished from hell and forced to undertake a secret mission for her superior Bael, Bitna has her own reasons for distilling swift justice on those who deserve it. Trust me, it all makes sense within the context of the show. However, Bitna's icy exterior is slowly thawed when she meets a damaged and fractured detective called Dayon. He's friendly and gentle, but also incredibly sharp as a detective. His past is mired in grief and misery, stemming from an infamous serial killer cold case by the name of Jay. After Kang Bitna and Han Dayon meet each other for the first time, both their lives are changed forever. The chemistry between these two is partly what makes the show work so well, and Park Shin-hye is delightful as the sinister and brutal Bitna. Likewise, Kim Jae-young works incredibly well alongside her, feeding on or bouncing off his co-star's energy to deliver a compassionate and believable performance. However, he inevitably comes across a bit vanilla at times, simply because Shin-hye chews up the scenery in every scene she's in. Honestly, she looks like she's having so much fun in this character, and you can really feel that energy in every scene. As for the main narrative though, The Judge from Hell is really a story of two halves. The first 7 or 8 episodes have a very consistent tone and pace, tackling individual cases across 2 episodes, to go with the double releases every week. These include courtroom scenes and specific revenge scenarios, working in much the same way that Taxi Driver did. For those unfamiliar with that show, the setup in Judge from Hell sees bits of a broken family or an irredeemable criminal showcased, then Dayon swoops in to gather evidence with the police, which in turn goes to the courtroom where Judge Bitna delivers a very lenient sentence. Why? Well, Bitna decides to then kill those individuals on her own time, which lends itself into her secret mission for Bael. Bael wants her to kill a certain number of individuals so he can invite her back into hell. However, these scenes can sometimes be pretty long, and those squeamish to violence should definitely take note. One of the revenge missions here literally goes on for 15 minutes or so, and it is absolutely relentless. While it's never to the degree of Mortal Kombat fatalities or some of the fight sequences in something like Punisher or Daredevil, it's definitely worth bearing in mind if you're going into this one. As mentioned, the midway point sees the focus shift, and it's here where we get much more of a serialized storyline, focusing on familial and interpersonal drama that affects Dayon's past and involves a couple of people from the police force too. I'm not going to spoil anything here obviously, but personally this is where the narrative starts to see some serious holes in logic and narrative flow. I'm not going to nitpick too much because this is a spoiler-free review after all, but we never see the full fate of what happens to the human Bitna. I wouldn't normally bring this up, but given early on we get one scene of her in hell being chased by a lion, it's never brought up again. Similarly, there's a skewed sense of justice when the idea of God is brought into the fold, and while I'm not going to get religious here, it is likely to rub believers up the wrong way. Although personally, I think it works quite well in the context of the show, given the idea of justice being dished out. Outside of that, there's a suitably ambiguous ending in case this one returns for a second season. But even without that, there is a lovely montage of sorts that ties up everything that happened in the first half of the show, with the victims, minus human Bitna, which is a nice inclusion. The soundtrack is pretty good here too, and the visuals definitely work well in this K-drama. There's a suitable balance between practical and CG effects used for the demons from hell, especially with Bael's tentacles and seeing Justitia's courtroom in hell. These fantastical elements contrast nicely alongside more of the grounded work on Earth. There are some parts of this though that definitely needed to be reworked more effectively into the main story. There's an entire subplot involving an apartment complex that Bitna lives in. It just feels like it's trying to capture Vincenzo vibes but fails miserably. There's also an inclusion of a demon hunting group after Satan that's quite cool, but literally is just in this to exude exposition about a MacGuffin and then never pops up again. There's an opportune time for them to show up as well, getting involved in the main conflict within the final few episodes, but instead this all just kind of fizzles out. Speaking of which, the final conflict is wrapped up at breakneck speed too, with a rather anticlimactic end to the main bad guys. Honestly, I wish we'd seen more of a struggle for our characters to overcome to really ramp up the tension and suspense, but alas, that doesn't happen. Instead, it's sacrificed in favour of a romantic angle between our main leads. The love between Dayon and Bitner is something that's definitely going to be an acquired taste, and in all honesty, I wish they'd gone the route of these two just being love-hate friends, as their chemistry suits this role much better. The romance is based on principles diametrically opposed to one another, and some of the sudden shifts in character do feel a bit out of place. Dayon goes from killing killers is wrong to kill this man now in a span of a few minutes after a shocking reveal. Sure, it's a life-altering situation, but this isn't the first time he's encountered this sort of thing either, especially when we see more of his past, so it does feel a bit jarring. As for Justicia, her descent into becoming human and falling in love with Dayon fares a little better, but honestly, I wish they'd admitted this completely. I know that may not be a popular choice among K fans, but we've had some good dramas this year, and Judge from Hell is definitely up there with them. However, it's hard to ignore some of the glaring issues that hold this back from being the best drama of the year. Overall, Judge from Hell is a solid recommendation. It's certainly not perfect and it is a little rough around the edges, but if you can look past some of the flaws, this one is definitely worth the time investment. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.